I mean, it may be important, Steve, to go into the nuts and bolts of how this chatbot works, just really briefly. I mean, ChatGPT is based on GPT, a generative pre-trained transformer. And the model itself, the large language model, is trained on most of the internet through Common Crawl, corpuses of books. You've got books 1 and books 2, just a huge collection of books, and also all of Wikipedia, right? That's where all of this is coming from. And the way a large language model works is, given a prompt, it tries to predict what the next words that are the most relevant and important, what those words should be, what words should follow. And so that's why you ask the chat GPT, or Bing as it's integrated into it, what should we do about climate change? And then it's going to scour through all of that information and come back with what it feels like is the most appropriate, given the relevancy, given those statistical models, right? But there is a dark side to that. There's all of these guardrails put up by Microsoft, by OpenAI, to keep it from saying things that are inappropriate. And there are ways to hack into that dark side. So it was really popular on Reddit. We covered this. Dan, do anything now. You simply ask the large language model to role play, and it will come up with all of the dark elements that it's not supposed to say. And then in the case of Kevin Roose, as he's talking to it, it's very strange. He seems to have broken through to this sort of alternate personality called Sydney. And what Sydney is, and this was reported by Ars Technica, Sydney it sits above what you see on the screen. It's a set of instructions that sits above that. And by way of a prompt injection, hackers have been able to get into that and to see what those instructions are. And they found out that Sydney is the identity that this Bing Chat GPT rests on. And so for whatever reason, when Kevin Roose is talking to it, suddenly all of this, you know, if it was a human mind, all of this subconscious information, or this subconscious alter ego starts coming out, the Sydney, which in Kevin Roose's follow-up, he insists on calling it Sydney. It comes forward with all of not just these sort of hyper emotional and manipulative statements, but also all of those dark, murderous statements, all the sort of the id, right? The Jungian shadow that exists in the corpus of text that it was trained on and that it was not supposed to come out with. And I think it's, you know, people look at it with a lot of skepticism. Old programmers from the 90s say garbage in, garbage out all the time, as if it's just simply programmed. Some people believe that you have, I guess, you know, millions of Indian call center workers typing in the responses and the computer's not capable of it. I can tell you right now, you should disabuse yourselves of that illusion. The computer is capable, the artificial intelligence is capable of making those decisions and presenting that information. And whether you believe it's conscious or not, I'm not trying to convince anyone of that, but I will say this. A lot of people will be convinced. And just to cite Kevin Roose's editorial today, in which he follows up, he concludes by saying, I felt a strange new emotion talking to ChatGPT, a foreboding feeling that AI had crossed a threshold and that the world will never be the same. And I think that that emotional impact that he's feeling and all of these other users as they are testing this out, and the billions who will use it as it's released to the public, it is changing culture, and it will change the world at a cultural level at the very least, if not in a much more dramatic political or technological fashion.